Everyone thinks the Sunbelt housing market is still on fire, but the truth about what's really happening in Texas, Florida, and Arizona right now is absolutely wild. You did everything right. You researched the market. You watched interest rates like a hawk. You compared neighborhoods on Zillow at 2 in the morning. You listened to every financial podcast telling you that real estate is the greatest wealth-building tool in American history. And then you bought. Or maybe you are sitting right now on the edge of buying, convinced that if you do not pull the trigger soon, you will be priced out forever. But here's the question nobody in the real estate industry wants you to ask. What if the cities that look the most attractive on the surface are actually the most dangerous places to park your money right now? We are not talking about Detroit-level collapse. We are not talking about ghost towns and boarded-up windows. We are talking about something far more insidious. Markets that look healthy from the outside, that still have good restaurants and new schools and growing populations, but underneath the surface, the financial foundations are quietly cracking. And by the time the average buyer figures it out, it is too late. The equity is gone, the insurance bill arrived, the builder down the street just slashed prices by $30,000, and your dream home just became your most expensive mistake. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on 10 American cities, spread across Texas, Florida, Arizona, Idaho, and Nevada, where the numbers are telling a story that the local chambers of commerce refuse to print. Stick with us, because the city we reveal at number 1 is a place that literally made the cover of every major financial magazine as a hot market just 2 years ago. Right now, it is quietly hemorrhaging value while sellers pretend everything is fine. And before we dive in, if you find this kind of honest, data-driven real estate analysis useful, do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button, drop a comment telling us what market you are watching, and share this video with anyone who is about to make a 6-figure real estate decision. Your wallet will thank you later. Let us get into it. Number 10. Killeen, Texas. Killeen sits in the heart of Central Texas, just outside Fort Hood, now officially known as Fort Cavazos. And for years, it carried the reputation of being one of the most reliably affordable housing markets in the state. Military families flooded in, investors followed, and for a while, it seemed like a bulletproof bet. The problem is that any market built almost entirely on a single economic engine, in this case, military population, becomes dangerously fragile the moment that engine sputters. And right now, the signals coming out of Killeen are deeply uncomfortable. Active listings have surged by nearly 38% year over year, according to local MLS data, while the absorption rate, the speed at which homes actually sell, has dropped sharply. Homes that would have gone under contract in a weekend are now sitting for 45 to 50 days before getting a single serious offer. VA loan delinquencies in this region have ticked upward, according to mortgage data trackers, and the rental market is getting compressed by an influx of landlords who could not sell and decided to rent instead. That oversupply in the rental pool has driven rental yields down to the point where the numbers barely cash flow for small investors. If you bought here for appreciation, you are looking at flat to negative growth. If you bought for cash flow, the math has quietly stopped working. Number 9. Cape Coral, Florida. Cape Coral looked like paradise, a canal front city on the Gulf Coast of Florida, more waterfront miles than any other city in the United States, warm weather, and prices that were still accessible compared to Miami and Naples. Investors and retirees descended on it with checkbooks wide open. Then came the insurance reckoning. After back-to-back hurricane seasons, insurance carriers started fleeing the Florida market at a pace that is genuinely alarming. What was once a manageable $2,000 annual homeowners insurance premium has, for many Cape Coral properties, ballooned into $6,000, $8,000, or even $12,000 per year for properties in flood-prone zones, which, in a canal city, is most of them. Citizens Insurance, Florida's insurer of last resort, is stretched to its absolute limit. Zillow data shows that active inventory in Cape Coral has climbed over 50% compared to just 2 years ago. Price reductions are appearing on nearly 1 in 3 active listings. Buyers are walking away at the closing table after getting their insurance quotes. Deals are collapsing that never would have collapsed in 2022. And yet, asking prices remain stubbornly high because sellers are still anchored to peak pandemic valuations. The result is a standoff between delusional sellers and terrified buyers, and the longer it drags on, the harder values are going to fall when the dam finally breaks. Number 8. Boise, Idaho. For a moment there, Boise was the coolest city in America. Tech workers from California and Washington poured in, priced out millennials moved up from bigger cities, and home values went vertical in a way that felt almost supernatural. The median home price doubled in less than 4 years. Everyone who bought in 2019 felt like a genius. Fast forward to today, and the hangover is severe. Boise was one of the most overvalued housing markets in the country, according to multiple economic research institutions, and the correction that followed was not gentle. Values in some neighborhoods have pulled back by 12 to 15% from their peak. Builders who race to meet demand are now sitting on finished inventory they cannot move, and they are offering incentives, rate buydowns, closing cost credits, free upgrades that make resale sellers completely non-competitive. The days on market figure for Boise has stretched to over 50 days on average. The investor community that helped inflate prices has largely retreated, and the remote workers who drove so much of the migration are either returning to major metros now that return to office mandates are back in force, or they are discovering that Boise is not quite as affordable as it seemed once you factor in Idaho's rising property taxes and the cost of heating a home through a genuinely brutal winter. The romantic narrative around Boise is fading, and the financial reality is replacing it. Number 7. Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis is an interesting case because it does not look like a boom market on the surface. It never got the flashy press coverage that Nashville did. Property prices here never went completely insane, but Memphis became something of a darling for out-of-state real estate investors chasing cash flow in affordable zip codes, and that has created a specific and troubling dynamic. The turnkey rental market in Memphis has been systematically oversold to investors from California, New York, and the Midwest who bought properties sight unseen based on projected rental numbers that did not account for the real costs of operating in this market. Vacancy rates in certain Memphis zip codes are running above 10%. Property management headaches are legendary, and a significant number of those turnkey rental portfolios are now quietly bleeding money every single month. Meanwhile, property crime in several target neighborhoods has not improved in the way that was projected, making it harder to retain quality tenants. Redfin data shows that price cuts in mid-tier Memphis neighborhoods have become common, and the investor exit is already beginning. When large portfolios get liquidated quickly, it floods the market with supply and crushes values for the regular homeowners who live there and never asked for any of it. Number 6. Tucson, Arizona. Tucson is Phoenix's quieter, hotter, more affordable neighbor, and for that reason, it absorbed a massive wave of buyers who got priced out of the Phoenix metro. The problem is that Tucson's economic foundation is not nearly strong enough to support the price levels it reached during the frenzy. The median household income in Tucson is significantly below the national average, yet home prices climb to levels that require incomes well above that to sustain. The result is an affordability gap so severe that first-time buyers have essentially vanished from the market. Without that entry-level demand, the entire chain of move-up buyers gets stuck. Nobody can move up if nobody is buying at the bottom. Foreclosure activity in Pima County has started to tick upward according to Adam Data Solutions. New construction from national builders is adding to an inventory glut that the local economy cannot absorb. Water scarcity, a real and growing issue in the desert Southwest, is beginning to factor into buyer psychology in a way that it did not 3 years ago. When people start asking, will this city even have water in 20 years? It puts a ceiling on what they are willing to pay. Tucson is hitting that ceiling hard. Number 5. Jacksonville, Florida. Jacksonville pitched itself as the responsible version of Miami, the grown-up, affordable, business-friendly Florida city that had all the sunshine without the chaos. For a while, the pitch worked. Corporations relocated, population grew, housing demand surged. But Jacksonville is now dealing with the same insurance catastrophe that is plaguing the rest of the Florida market. And because it is a city with a lot of older housing stock, the situation is particularly acute. Insurers are not just raising rates, they are canceling policies outright for homes built before certain code requirements were updated. Homeowners are receiving non-renewal notices and scrambling to find replacement coverage that costs 2 and 3 times what they paid before. Active inventory in Jacksonville has climbed dramatically. Redfin data shows that the share of homes with price reductions is approaching 30%. The luxury end of the market, which surged during the pandemic, has seen sales volume contract sharply as remote work demand evaporates. And here is the thing about Jacksonville that most people do not discuss. A significant portion of the neighborhoods that saw the most appreciation are in flood zones. FEMA map revisions are reclassifying properties and mandating expensive flood insurance for homes that were previously not required to carry it. That is a cost that hits buyers and existing homeowners alike, and it is making a lot of those affordable Jacksonville neighborhoods suddenly not affordable at all. Number 4. San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio has been one of the most aggressively built real estate markets in the country over the last several years. National builders, Lennar, D.R. Horton, KB Home, have been pouring money and concrete into the suburban fringe of this city at a pace that has created one of the most severe inventory surpluses in Texas. The problem is structural. San Antonio's job market, while diverse, does not pay the wages necessary to sustain the home prices that were reached during the frenzy. The military presence at Joint Base San Antonio is large and stabilizing, but it is not enough to absorb the volume of new homes coming onto the market. Builders are offering interest rate buydowns that cost them $20,000 to $40,000 per home just to generate sales, which mathematically destroys the resale value of every existing home in those neighborhoods. According to Texas A&M Real Estate Research Center data, the month supply of inventory in Bexar County has climbed to levels not seen since before the pandemic boom. Days on market are stretching beyond 60 days for starter homes, and the investor class that was propping up demand, they have moved on. CoreLogic data indicates a significant pullback in investor purchase activity across the San Antonio metro. The city is not crashing dramatically. It is deflating slowly, like a tire with a nail in it. And slow deflation is often worse for homeowners than a sharp correction, because it drags on for years. Number 3. Las Vegas, Nevada. Las Vegas is a city built on speculation, which makes it uniquely vulnerable when the speculative mood shifts. And right now, the mood has shifted. The pandemic turned Las Vegas into a migration destination, as remote workers discovered they could afford a 4-bedroom house in Summerlin for the same price as a 1-bedroom in Los Angeles. Demand exploded. Prices exploded with it. But the remote work tailwind is fading, and Las Vegas is being left exposed. The city's local economy is still heavily dependent on tourism and hospitality, sectors that pay wages that do not support the home price levels that were set by California transplants. As those transplants either return home or stop coming, the buyer pool is shrinking, and it is being replaced with locals who simply cannot afford the mortgages. Zillow data shows that Las Vegas is one of the markets with the highest concentration of price reductions on active listings in the entire western United States. Foreclosure activity is ticking up. The condo market, particularly investor-owned units that were being run as short-term rentals, is getting hit the hardest, as stricter HOA rules and city regulations have made short-term rental operations increasingly difficult and expensive. If you bought a Vegas condo as an Airbnb play in 2022, you might be in serious trouble right now. Number 2. Austin, Texas. Austin, the poster child of the pandemic real estate frenzy, the city that technology companies adopted as their adopted home, the city where homes were getting 30 offers in 48 hours and buyers were waiving inspections and appraisals just to compete. Everyone was moving to Austin. Everyone was going to get rich in Austin. And now the correction is brutally public. Austin is one of the most well-documented housing market reversals in recent American history, and yet it still surprises people with how deep it is running. According to Redfin, Austin ranks among the top markets in the country for home value decline from peak. In some zip codes, median prices have dropped 20% or more from their 2022 highs. That is not a small correction. For a buyer who put 10% down at the peak, that is their entire down payment. Gone. The supply situation is staggering. Active inventory in the Austin metro has increased by over 150% compared to the lows of the pandemic buying frenzy. Tech layoffs at companies that had relocated to Austin have sent some of the highest income renters and buyers back to their home cities, removing the demand engine that justified those inflated prices in the first place. Property taxes in Travis County are punishing, some of the highest effective rates in the country, and that ongoing carrying cost is making it harder for investors to hold and wait for a recovery. Austin is not dead, it is a great city, but if you bought at peak pricing, you are staring at a long, painful road back to even. Number 1. Phoenix, Arizona. And here we are at the top of the list. Phoenix, Arizona, the city that has made and broken more real estate investors than almost any other market in the country. Phoenix has a long history of spectacular booms followed by devastating busts, and everything happening in the market right now suggests we are in the early innings of the next one. During the pandemic, Phoenix was ground zero for the migration frenzy. Californians poured across the state line. Remote workers arrived in droves. Investors, institutional and individual, bought entire neighborhoods. Prices doubled. And then they kept going. For a moment, it felt like Phoenix had finally grown up into a Tier 1 real estate market that would never look back. But the data tells a different story. According to the Arizona Department of Housing and multiple MLS data providers, active inventory in the Phoenix metro has surged to multi-year highs. Days on market have stretched dramatically. Price reductions are appearing on a staggering percentage of active listings. In some submarkets, nearly 4 in 10 homes have had to cut their price just to generate interest. The institutional investors who were buying hundreds of homes per month at the peak, they have almost entirely pulled back. CoreLogic data shows institutional purchases in Phoenix have dropped by over 70% from their peak activity. When the institutions leave, they take billions of dollars of demand with them, and the regular market simply cannot fill that void. And then there is the water issue, which looms over all of this like a slow-moving disaster. Arizona is in a genuine long-term water supply crisis. The Colorado River, which supplies a significant portion of Phoenix's water, has been experiencing historically low levels. Federal water allocations have already been cut. The long-term sustainability of a metro area of 6 million people in the Sonoran Desert is a question that serious economists, climate scientists, and urban planners are all now asking out loud. 5 years ago, that conversation would have seemed alarmist. Today, it is mainstream. And when existential questions start to get asked about a city's long-term viability, it puts a ceiling on what buyers are willing to pay, and a floor on how far prices can fall. Phoenix is not going to disappear. But if you are buying there today, you need to ask yourself, are you buying a recovering asset, or are you catching a falling knife on a market that has structural problems that no amount of new construction can fix? So there you have it. 10 American cities where the headlines tell you one story and the data tells you something completely different. From Killeen to Cape Coral, from Boise to Phoenix, the pattern is the same. Too much supply, too little affordability, too many investors chasing the same exits, and an insurance and cost of living crisis that is quietly repricing what it actually costs to own a home in America. Does this mean you should never buy real estate? Absolutely not. Real estate remains one of the most powerful wealth-building tools available to everyday Americans. But it means you need to go in with your eyes wide open. You need to look past the shiny new facades and the enthusiastic realtors and the Chamber of Commerce press releases and look at the raw data. Inventory trends, days on market, price reduction percentages, insurance costs, property taxes, and local economic fundamentals. Because the market does not care about your feelings. It does not care about the vacation you imagine taking from your new beach condo. It does not care about the dream of financial freedom you built around a rental portfolio that cash flows on paper but bleeds money in reality. The people who build real wealth in real estate are the ones who see around corners, not the ones who show up at the peak of the party and wonder why the music stopped. If this kind of no-nonsense market analysis is what you are looking for, please hit that like button, subscribe for more, and share this with someone you know who is making a major real estate decision right now. It could save them from one of the biggest financial mistakes of their life. We will see you in the next one.